I am so pleased to welcome today to the 42nd episode of the John Riley Project, my guest today, Michael Gaulden. Michael, welcome.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I saw you for the first time. You were interviewed on KUSI, and you were telling your story. You know, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're a community activist. You're a CEO of a nonprofit, but you grew up homeless, and your story was just so intriguing. And you know, my podcast is all about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I was thinking, Michael Gaulden would be a perfect guest on the John Riley Project. I'm so pleased that you were able to join us, and welcome here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a beautiful drive. You have a great view here. Great studio. It's an honor to be here.
Terrific. So tell me a little bit about, you know, your story, your backstory, and what's led up to this point today.
Well, I'm a San Diego native. I was born in Chula Vista Hospital, I believe. I'm not sure, but grew up in San Diego, although I bounced around from time to time of what I'd like to call my own personal underground railroad, right? I was homeless from about the ages of 7 to 17 in all capacities of homelessness that you can imagine. I mean, from the street life to the shelter life to tents to couch surfing to just roaming around Greyhound stations. It was really, really a terrible time of my life. Now that I look back, I learned a lot of lessons, but when you're going through it, you just hope to survive it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Wow. So you were growing up here. This is all in San Diego?
Well, mostly, I would say about 80% of my time on the streets was in San Diego, but my mother had to kind of, what people don't know is that cities try to ship you away, right?
So yeah, they do. Yeah.
If you want to get somewhere else, they'll give you a travel voucher to take a Greyhound and be someone else's homeless problem for a while. And so my mom was on the search for new opportunity, or maybe she could go with family members or just make it work. And so we ended up everywhere, like Virginia about 6 times, Oregon, Arkansas, Texas, Arizona, Utah, for short periods of time, just trying to find opportunity. But ultimately, we kept coming back to San Diego. So I've been homeless pretty much throughout the United States. I can show you where all the shelters are.
So that's interesting. So our community leaders weren't necessarily trying to solve the problem. They were just trying to ship you out of town.
Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, it's a lot easier that way, right? Versus trying to figure out what to do with this homeless family. If you want to get here, we'll just ship you over there and reduce some of our numbers for sure.
Well, that must have been really chaotic as a child. I mean, you have friends,
Absolutely.
you know, you're trying to make friends, and then suddenly you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
to someplace you don't know anybody.
And my friends would say I was quantum leaping, right?
Yeah, right.
Right, when I'm women, I'd be here, you know, and you could tell something was wrong, right? You wouldn't go out and just say it, but you know, I was a lot skinnier than the rest of the kids, didn't really have any, you know, wore the same jeans, same shirts, but you wouldn't really speak on it, but you knew something was wrong, and then I would disappear for 6 months without a trace, and then come back like... Yeah. So you went to school here in San Diego. Yeah. So what are the elementary and high schools did you attend? So I went to King Elementary, I went to Baker Elementary. There was a school called Sojourner Truth at the time. I went there for middle school. I went to Roosevelt Middle School. I went to San Diego High School. I went to Monarch High School. And I went to another high school in Virginia and some middle schools across the country. But so majority of my school was in San Diego with lapses of time. But the part I say about that is my academia had suffered because I traveled so much. And so transcripts and credits doesn't always transfer over. Right. So I took chemistry and biology like 3 times, right? So it was tough, but fortunately for me, I could take tests well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're a smart guy, you know, and yet it's been a great part of your success is that you are an intelligent young man and you've made yourself very successul. But it must have been tough. It must have been very, very difficult.
It was tough having so many impeding forces against me. I spent a lot of time in the libraries, right? You just don't have anywhere to go growing up as an adolescent, knee-deep in homelessness. There's just nowhere to go, and the library was kind of the safest spot for me. And so there I was introduced. My mother always read to me, but there I was able to grow and read a lot of literature, educate myself on kind of what's going on in my situation, because I was trying to figure out why was I where I was, if that makes sense. It's like I woke up and I was homeless, and and I was trying to figure out why.
Well, I would imagine when you were really young, you probably don't know any better. It's just your reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But then a library probably provided for you kind of a safe place, right? Where you can relax, you could explore, you could learn.
Yeah.
And not feel that you were unsafe.
Right, because what a lot of people don't correlate is that homelessness puts you on the streets, and I say this quite often, but the streets is where gangsters and thugs and criminals congregate, right? So if you're just put out there, you're going to inevitably run into these people, especially as a minority, right? So I'm walking around, mentally I don't feel like I'm a part of this, but physically I'm entrapped within this society where not only am I homeless and starving, but also my life is threatened just because I'm homeless and starving.
Wow. Tell me a little bit more about hunger. And some of the things, because some people say they're hungry, but they're not hungry. Tell me what you've experienced as a young child growing up with food.
It started off okay, right? Where you would be able to eat shelter food. But then in some of the shelters, they would get the last of the shelter food, or so it would be like food that was transported all across the city, and then you'll get the scraps, and that was the okay food. You do worse than that, there's no money, no EBT, no food stamps coming in for food. There is nothing, right? So it's like you either have a few options. You can panhandle or you can steal food. And so for the one who has a moral compass, you can't really steal food, right? And if you can't panhandle, you really don't have anything to eat. And when I say that, I try to get people to understand what that means. It's like there is no refrigerator. There is no food storage. There is no money to buy food. So you're sitting there and your body is digesting itself over and over again. It's like a writhing pain twisting into your stomach, like fire burning, fire that you constantly trying to quench with water or whatever you can find, and as through time it just compounds till you cannot take it anymore. And I've seen people really suffer because of this.
Wow. See, from speaking for myself, I've experienced my own challenges as a youth, nowhere near the level that you have had, and sometimes it's hard to really understand that. For a lot of middle class folks, they don't understand the depth of what homeless people really feel. Yeah. Now, in one of the interviews, you talked about doing your biology homework underneath a streetlight. Tell me about that.
It was hard. And it wasn't just biology. It was, math, English, social sciences, because I had nowhere else to do it, no time, no space. It needed to get done. All my life, they told me that there are no excuses. If you want to succeed, it doesn't matter that you're homeless. And I never thought that was fair, but that was the rules I had to play by. Yeah. And so I remember one time, I didn't have access. The libraries were closed. I think they were renovating downtown. I didn't have no electricity, and we were sleeping in the car, and so I had to type up a 2-page essay, and I'm like, how am I supposed to do this, right? And so I spent weeks trying to write it out or trying to figure it out, because I couldn't access the school labs at San Diego High at the time as well, San Diego High School of Business, although that might not exist anymore. They might have merged, but there was no way for me to feasibly do this. So I wrote my essay, I researched it, annotated it. It was a essay I put my time in, turned to the teacher, they balled it up in front of me, threw it in the trash, and I wanted to type double-spaced Times New Roman. And I got an F on that piece of paper.
But did they know your life circumstances when they did that?
I've had talks with teachers because, sometimes it's embarrassing, but sometimes you have to kind of reach out to teachers and kind of let them know I'm not being negligent or I'm not trying to fall asleep in class. This is my situation. But most of everyone doesn't really care about your situation. I say all the time, no one cared I was on the streets until I got off the streets, right? Because when I'm on the streets, like you were alluding to earlier, just a mass of homeless people, right? Just one group, one cohort. You can't see the individuality amongst those people. And so to be lost in that, you have to play by the same rules. And so, I told them my situation, but was there empathy? No. It was apathy. It was, no one really was concerned about it, right? They didn't think I would persist anyway, if that makes sense.
Well, you talked about that in some of your speeches where people said that there is no hope for you, that you're going to end up in any number of bad situations, gangs, prison, or worse, how did you fight through that? How did you think to yourself, I'm not going to fall in that trap. I'm better than that. How did you have the fortitude to rise up?
I had to fall first because I always hated being counted out from the day I was born. That he just lost no hope, right? I mean, my father was incarcerated, 15 years to life sentence. His father was murdered in prison. His father was also murdered. My whole family on both sides deep into drugs and criminality. So, what was popularized was the bad things, right? And so you had to learn otherwise, right? And so when you're young and you're starving, sometimes you make mistakes. Your friends, they're like selling drugs, they're doing all these things, and they're not starving. You're trying to play by the rules and follow the law, and you're starving. It's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And then so you make mistakes, you bump your head, and which I did, and I got into some trouble trying to pick houses when I was like 16. And then I got arrested, and then I went to juvenile hall, and then I was talking to the guy across from me. I was like, sir, literally, I was just trying to feed my family. And he was like, I understand, because I didn't have a record or anything. He was like, does this help? Did this help? And I was like, no. He's like, did you help your mom, or did you hurt your mom by doing this? And I was like, I hurt my mom. And so, I didn't want to be anything compared to my father, and sitting there looking around doing some introspection, I was like, they were right? Is this the path that I'm destined to go on, or do I need to step in and make a change, right? And so around 15, 16, I decided I gotta find a different way, because this way really does lead. It's one thing to say death in jail, like on the news or something, but when you're looking down the fork in the road and you see death and you see jail, you have to figure something else out.
Yeah. Well, your options are limited, and I imagine, here you are, you're a child, you're trying to do your homework, or you're trying to help out your mom, and you're surrounded by a lot of negative forces. And it's easy just to get sucked into that.
Yeah.
And then just to repeat the pattern of those around you.
Yeah, it's inevitable not to. If you don't, that's kind of the anomaly, right?
Right.
Because the safest place to navigate college is like to join a fraternity, right? You're automatically put into social gatherings, you have friends instantly, and you're protected. Same way with the street life. The safest way to navigate is the gangs. Contrary to popular belief, you have immediate friends,
yes,
social gatherings, whatnot.
Yes.
And when you don't, you are left alone by yourself and subject to violence from all said parties around.
Yeah.
Police, gangs, hate crimes, all of that I felt, So the fortitude to rise above it, why do I deserve to live like this? I didn't do anything wrong.
No.
It's not nothing that I did to be here. It's not my fault my mom, none of them have bank accounts, right? It's not my fault that my mom's almost died 3 times, right? It's not my fault. So why do I deserve this? I don't. But everyone felt like, oh, you're there, so it's probably what you deserve. It's kind of like almost as if it's a sentence being passed down.
Well, as a child, it's a lottery ticket, right? I'm born to a family, you're born into a family, our situations are different. But when you're a kid, you can't be held accountable for, the circumstances that you're in.
But they will hold you accountable.
They will. Yeah.
Children, your kids are the meanest, They'll hold you accountable. They'll tease you. They'll beat on you. They'll jump you. They'll harass you just because you're living situation. And then adults will just treat you so. Being a kid, like from 7 to 12, was some of the most scariest times that I'm sure a homeless kids face, because you don't really know what's going on. You're figuring out. You're hungry. You're dirty. Something's different from you and other people, but you can't really figure it out. And when you go into middle school, you start to understand your place in the world, that you sit on the underside of capitalism. Because homelessness is under the poverty line. You have the poverty line, and then you go even further, then you have homelessness.
Right.
And that's how I grew up. So I had to get to poverty. I had to become poor.
I understand.
So looking up is like, it's daunting, right? Like, how can I possibly rise above this, and it wasn't for like my mom and I say the grace of God, I probably couldn't have, because I felt like everyone was against me,
Tell me more about your mom and her story. And I know she was ill for part of the time while you were homeless.
Well, she was ill for the majority of the time. That's kind of what made us homeless in the first place, because she was thriving. She was trying to thrive. Like, my mom went through her own circumstances that many women, you go through these Me Too movements, all this stuff. My mom went through all these things that many women are subject to, right? And then she was homeless with us for 10 years. So I really feel my mom, she has my heart, because she suffered a lot, and she had everything from diabetes to like real health issues which she needed surgery for. She had 5 surgeries, lost too much blood in 2 of them, flatlined in 1 of them. And then I remember one time we were on the bus, and we have nowhere to go, and the bus driver like, it's the last stop. Well, he's like, we're coming up to the last stop because we're just riding it. My mom had just got out the hospital, right? And so it's crazy because she still had the bandages on, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but we're homeless at the time. We're not in shelters, but we still had to get off the bus. But he kicked us off a little bit earlier because her bandages had started leaking through. So you could see like the blood and the smell, and it was stinking up the whole bus. So then they kicked us off the bus. Now we're just sitting at the bus stop. And that's like that's where we stayed that night. So when I think about my mom and kind of everything she went through and all the sacrifices she made to kind of propel her kids forward, it almost breaks my heart, because on multiple occasions she's almost died, and I feel like that she sacrificed everything to try to give us a better opportunity. I mean, she not monetarily wise, but here, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what she taught us, morals, and she taught us values.
So how old were you on that incident on the bus when your mother had just had surgery?
I was probably 14.
Wow. So you're 14 years old. Your mom has had surgery. She's struggling to provide for you the best she can, but now she's disabled, and now there's a condition after the surgery. What did you feel like at that time? Do you feel like you had to rescue your mom?
Yeah. It talks about being a man, what a man quote unquote stands for. And as a man, there's no father figures around us. There's no heroes around us, right? And the older people that you see in the community, the only way they'll help you is through criminal activities. And honestly, when you talk about criminal activities amongst them, it's not within the same context. Like it's a means to an end, right? When they sell drugs, when they do that stuff, it's like, I'm feeding my family. I'm not a bad person. I'm feeding my family.
Right.
But you look at it anywhere else, like this is a drug dealer, it's a criminal, right? And
right.
Understanding that, it's like, I can't really go that way. And so it's like, what can I do to feed my family? What can I do to help my mom get out of the situation? Because she's been sick since I was 7, right? I've seen her health decline so many times. And I remember one time we were in a shelter, and her and a guy that we met, our family became close as we should get, because of anything can happen in that world. And they were both real sick, and we was wondering what was going to happen. And he ended up dying, and Mom didn't. And it was just kind of the split of how fast the ambulance could get there, right? And it's like, when you know that these are real possibilities every day, and his kids were just removed and their spot replaced, and when you know this is a real possibility, it scares you, right?
Well, yeah.
And so when you're 14 and this is happening, it terrifies you, but you try to numb yourself to what's going on, because if you stop moving, all that's behind is destruction and chaos, right? So you got to kind of numb yourself and try to pick up where my mom left off, so I started working at 14, got my first job at SeaWorld.
Wow. At 14. It's just amazing. Tell me about the job at SeaWorld. What did you do?
SeaWorld, it's a cool place, but I didn't like working there. I worked in the arcade, and they don't let you sit down. You gotta stand up the whole time, and then people are treating you so mean, right? It's like for no reason, right? They're degrading you. They're talking down on you, being condescending, and you're like, I'm literally just doing my job, and do you want these tickets or not? And it's like it was such a tough environment for a young kid to do, and I had to do extra steps to get a work permit to be allowed to get this job.
Because I was going to say, 14 is young to work.
I need to work. That's why I told the counselor, I'm in these shelters.
Yeah.
Like, I need to work, or what am I going to do?
Right.
And so I got a special work permit, was able to work, just to be treated badly. I had to take 2 hours on the bus to get there, right? And panhandle to get the money to get on the bus. And there's no lunch because I didn't get a paycheck yet, so I'm still starving as I'm working. And then the customers are just treating me so bad. And then I got to take 2 hours just to come all the way back to the shelter. and I'm still hungry, and I miss dinner, and that's just kind of how it was for a while.
You were talking about that, before, where, why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? And you can easily go down on that trap of just self-pity.
Right.
And then life just steamrolls you, right?
Yeah.
If you don't really come up and take control of your situation.
Yeah.
But it's unfair. Life is unfair in so many ways. It's the hand you were dealt, but you were able to climb out, which makes your story just so unbelievable.
Yeah, I try to tell the kids that everyone has struggle, everyone has obstacles, but that's not the story. The story is overcoming those obstacles. I mean, I've seen, I was homeless, but there are millions of people that are homeless, that are going to be homeless, that continue to be homeless, with all kind of stories and stuff or whatnot. And it's like, are you sitting there indulged in self-pity, crying and saying like, why me, and holding your head down and not doing anything about it? Or are you going to accept life for what it is? Sometimes it's not going to be fair, but what are you going to do about it? Right? Because it's you're the driving force of your life, and all these kids are pointing fingers at everybody except themselves. It's not fair. It's not fair. No, it's not fair.
It's not. No. What
else? You get what I'm saying? What's after that? Right. And so that's what you have to kind of understand. Is you have to make it as fair as you can. Right. And I've always believed that education is key to upward mobility, and so to start educating yourself, and it'll open a lot more doors for you in different capacities. Right. It could be a vocational school. It could be military. It could be whatever, 4-year, 2-year university, whatever is, relative for you, but it'll open pathways for you, right? And that was my way out of that situation, was to study while, maybe not go out or not hang out with my friends, and kind of take this serious and kind of change my life. Because high school kids, especially when they're going through it, you're running out of time. And when you're 18, all those programs shut down for you, right? Foster care, you age out. Homelessness, there was really nothing in the first place. Now you're just a homeless adult. And the homeless kid and the homeless adult is two different things, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's for me. I just wanted to use education to kind of help me break down some barriers that plagued my family for generations, because nobody had a traditional high school diploma, right? No one had a college diploma, right? All these things are kind of unsaid of, right? So can you imagine a 15, 16-year-old homeless kid, jeans too big, shirt too big, scrawny, you can see my ribs, talking about, I think I'm going to want to go to college,
Well, yeah. Well, for them, it's probably an impossibility. It's not even on the radar. Right? So you must have had some guidance from teachers or counselors that looked at you and said, college is a possibility for you, and helped you realize that could be a new reality.
I can't say no. I can't say
really?
So. Yeah, I can't say so.
This was all from within.
From within, from my mom.
Yeah.
From my sister, because my sister, she was trailblazing the first. I think she got accepted to San Diego State, which really showed me maybe we could do it. She couldn't persist through it, because you can't just take a homeless kid and drop him in a 4-year university with health issues and say graduate.
Right.
It's hard enough as it is, right? But no, actually, everyone tried to deter me from it until I started doing it myself. And then I ran into reality changes at my senior year in high school or whatnot, who really helped some opportunities as well. But up until that point, there was no one waving my flag saying you can do it. And
wow.
It crushed me. That's what he told me. Obviously, you can't do it. What are you doing? And some people try to graduate me early, and I'm like, for what? I can't even go into the military. What am I going to do? Not our problem.
A friend of mine, he would always talk about the guys in the neighborhood are like crabs. It's like if you're in a glass and you're a crab and you're trying to climb out, they're always pulling you back down, right? And so did you feel that from other homeless people, maybe your friends in school, maybe even some of the negative influences that were around you when you were saying, I'm going to go to college? They're like, oh yeah, that's a pipe dream.
Not from other homeless people. It was really close knit community. It's a close. Homeless people, they know each other in those
they watch
areas.
each other's back, right?
Right. I mean, it's a cohort. It's a group. It's community. But for like some of my friends that understand my choices, right? When it's like, you know, if you sell this or you do this, you'll get all this money. You won't be in a situation. But that's against the law and it's all kind of other problems. And so I had to deal with that social aspect of it, which a lot of people kind of disregard the social component of adolescence. But it's like the majority, it's a big part of it.
Huge.
You know, it's huge. And so you get teased, right? Or when you try to buy clothes or I had some Stephon Marberries called Starberries.
Yeah.
And they were like $8.99 Stephen Barry's, which was a store in downtown Horn Plaza at the time. Mm-hmm. And I bought my own pair of shoes and I was so like happy about it.
Well, yeah.
And I thought they looked nice, you know, they looked a little fly.
Yeah.
And so when people found out the price of the shoes and like how much or where I got it from, then they start clowning you and teasing you, and now you gotta take them off, and it's tough. It's tough. And
kids can be brutal.
Kids are some of the meanest people.
Yeah, they are. I agree.
And some of that harassment mostly came from kids. When harassment came from adults, it really shocked me because aren't you supposed to be helping me get through this, right?
Yeah.
And so to your point earlier, no one stepped in and said, "I believe that you can do it."
Well, they were taking your essay that was supposed to be double space typed and crumpling up and throwing in the trash when. Yeah, you're right. I remember when I was in college, when I was in high school, college wasn't on my radar at all until my 10th grade, my geometry teacher really made a big deal about going to college. And at that point, I realized that could be a possibility. Right. So there were people in my life that told me that here's an opportunity. Here's a way to climb up a couple of steps on the ladder, right? Right. But you weren't getting any of that.
I actually got kicked out of one school for trying to take my academic career a little bit more serious, right? The school at the time wasn't like the best school at the time, and it's like you got one. I think I was a junior at the time, and you had 9th through 12th grade all in one room learning 9th grade material, and it's like I need to take the SAT. Like I took my SAT without a calculator. I didn't have a pencil. I just showed up, right? And so it was crazy, and I'm arguing with counselors like I need to take these courses to make me A through G competitive.
Yeah.
Why do you even know what A through G means? And
they're saying that to you,
right? Yeah,
like you shouldn't know about A through G.
What are you talking about? I know the problem when I used where was it? Henceforth. I used henceforth in an essay, and I got an F on the essay. And they talking about I plagiarized because when you speak, you don't use that. You speak in colloquialism, basically, and so you don't talk like that. I mean, are you supposed to talk like that in an essay, right? Especially in your adolescence, right?
Yeah.
And so I realized that the standard was set that low for me that I couldn't use a fairly decent word in an essay, right, without plagiarizing.
They think you're cheating.
And that wasn't just me. They were doing it to all the kids, and they wonder why kids have low self-esteem and low confidence because we beat on them and berate them and tell them they can't do it.
Right.
It sucks.
Yeah, it totally sucks. And I did a podcast earlier on believing in yourself. Right. And because that's so important. And it's a struggle as an individual to find that within yourself, especially what you've been through, that you were able to believe in yourself. But then on top of it, everyone around you doesn't believe in you. Right. They don't know you. Right. They don't really know you. Right. Okay. But they still want to beat you down. Yeah. And that's why so many people are caught in this trap, and it's intergenerational, right? Yeah. Passed on from grandparents to parents to kids.
Hereditary, I would almost say,
Oh man. So in one of the speeches that I think it was to the San Diego Housing Authority, I saw it on YouTube. A great talk. and you said you eventually went to San Diego High, and then you worked as a janitor at San Diego High. Yeah. Was that as a student or after you graduated?
As a student. Yeah, it was one of the worst times. I've had some bad times, that kind of just stick out, and that was one of them for sure. because kids are cruel, right? And so you're out of high school. Some people already know you're homeless, and they see you cleaning up with the janitorial crew, you know, in the, like, had a muddy big brown shirt, gloves, scraping up gum and trash, and cleaning classrooms. I had a newfound respect for janitors, custodians. Actually, they were custodians, right?
Right.
After that, right? Because the amount of work that they put into keeping a classroom or any facility clean and organized, and to be treated like that and verbally abused, it sucks because they're mentally sharp, you know. Just people just have different pathways, right? And some of them make fairly decent money, but the stigma around it, especially in high school as a kid doing it, is almost social suicide.
Well, because you're in front of your friends or your acquaintances or classmates. Right. They're already, you know, hammering you because you're not wearing clean clothes or whatever it is.
Clean clothes,
or your Starberries, right. You know. And now suddenly they're seeing you on the janitorial crew.
Right.
But, you know, you are obviously just so unbelievably mentally tough to power through that. I mean, that's unbelievable.
It was, and my life was on the line. So there was at a point where it was like, yeah, that sucks being teased, right? But I mean, I need the money from this to survive. So I had to weigh it out. Your skin has to thicken up because it's like, we're in the car right now. My mom's feet or ankles about this big, right? It's like we don't have any food. We don't have anything. All I have is custodial job. And so I'm being humiliated every day doing this. But I know at the end of the day, I'll be at home, I'm gonna get some medicine, I'll be able to buy some food, wash the clothes, and do that stuff. And so that's the goal setting. That's what kind of kept me and got me through it. It's, you know, took it day by day with short-term goals, with a long-term vision. And I knew that eventually this hard work will get me in a better situation.
So you're getting very little help from the adults at your school. The cities are trying to put you on a Greyhound bus and send you out of town. You are getting harassed by, you know, your classmates, your adolescents that are just brutal. Okay, and you're working a job that really a high school student shouldn't be working.
Right.
Okay, and yet you keep powering through. And then I remember you said that you earned enough money that you were able to get an apartment for you and your mom.
Yeah, and that was one of the happiest times of my life. I mean, we didn't have any furniture, we didn't have cable, we didn't have anything except the keys, right? But that was good enough because we had a place we could call our own, right? And so doing that, paying, it's like seeing your hard work come into fruition, you know, manifested to one of your goals. And I know that before I can focus on just school or just focus on being a kid, I just become just a kid, right? And that's just getting off the streets.
Yeah.
And I understood early there wasn't a hero coming to lift us up.
Right.
Because everybody sits there and waits for a miracle, especially in poverty, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hit the lottery or something's going to come along and take me out of the situation. And when that never happens, you know, they either, you know, rebuke their religion or, you know, blame everybody else instead of taking it upon themselves to get up and move and make it happen, right? And good things will happen along the way. But if you just sit there and wait for it to happen, it'll never happen.
No, it won't. And I mean, I applaud you for that. And it's not easy. But you serve as a great example and inspiration for a lot of people. You know, I mean, so tell me about the process of you. Okay, you're in high school. You've been working as a custodian, and also at SeaWorld prior to that.
Yeah.
You got enough money to help your mom who needed health care, and you got a place to live. But then now you're suddenly talking about going to college.
Yeah.
So talk to me through that process.
Well, it was funny because when I first brought it up to everybody like kind of, oh, okay, right. You know, not saying I was stupid or not saying that. It was more so like the odds of you doing that. You know, how are you going to pay for it? And then you have to understand how am I going to pay for this, right? Understand the whole financial aid or financial world. Like, I understand all of that, right? And so to sift through it all, it was very challenging. But I always felt that if I had a stable home, I would get like just straight A's all through high school. And so I had finally had a chance to prove that because my senior year was the only year that I had stable housing. And I was able to get straight A's all through. I got a B in art, can't draw at all. It's just not at all.
It's okay.
But for the I got straight A's, you know, and then when I'm racking up A's and people are starting to take me a little bit more serious now. Oh, well, you know, I'm able to, you know, eat. I'm starting to gain a little bit more weight and stuff like that. And so now it became and I had wrote an essay actually I had a case manager at the time who helped me get the custodial job, and they had it was through the higher youth program, so it was like summer, and it was like right before summer and into the summer, so like the last couple months of high school and going into like maybe 1 to 2 months into the summer, where people in the community will hire youth. Nominal income, but you know, something. And so I wrote an essay to my case manager telling her what I was able to do with these funds. You know, I was able to, you know, buy quarters and buy lunch and ultimately move us into an apartment. And then she submitted to an essay contest, which it won.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do a speech on the USS Midway. And then I was be able to meet some people. Things kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
So I'm entering my senior year and I'm stable and I'm getting A's and stuff. Then people started taking me a little bit more serious. I got nominated as Student of the Month, like never before in my life, right?
That's awesome.
And then everybody took credit for it. And so and that's another part of what I see going on is that they tell you can't do it, and if you do it, they're like, yeah, we did it for them. And all
they
that
want to
stuff.
take credit for your accomplishments.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah. And I give credit where credit is due, though. You know, like my not tutors, but volunteers at Reality Changers who helped me through the college applications and all that stuff. Those are the people you want to highlight and you want to see help. Yeah. Not some like teacher in the back of the room who kicked you out of school 2 years ago talking about. Yeah. You know,
and then that principal, you know, who had no relationship with you.
Right.
And he's patting himself on the back.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Right.
That's not right. So you went to UCLA.
Yeah.
Right on. So tell me about that process and how it became UCLA.
Well, I only went to go to San Diego State, right? It was like right in my face. The only college I really knew about. Plus, my sister already applied. And I knew they had that Guardian Scholars program where they help foster kids get into it. So I felt like I could weasel myself through that. But then being at Reality Changers, talking to Chris, who was the CEO at the time, and talking to Debbie, who was my volunteer at the time, and they was saying, the worst they can tell you is no. Cause I was like, why would I apply anywhere else? You know, I was homeless my whole life. Yeah. They're not going to take a kid like me. Just to frankly be honest, I wasn't trying to shade myself, but I was seeing the caliber of students that was going. You know, sons of millionaires, sons of billionaires. You know, daughters of actresses and actors. Yeah. You got homeless boys from San Diego talking about, here's my application, right? And so I was felt discouraged by the whole process. It was a little bit too. The magnitude of it was a little bit too much for me. Yeah. But they pushed me to go and to apply and fill out the essays and to go through the whole hoopla, which is so time consuming. It takes hours and hours. But I just did it to get them off my back because I was like, I'm gonna go to San Diego State, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll apply to UCLA. Yeah.
Right. Like sure. And you know, I did not even get into San Diego State, you know, and so I'm glad I did apply to somewhere else, right? Because I would have been, So that's why I tell kids, hey, apply to a billion colleges and then make your decision.
That's exactly right.
But when I got accepted, I thought it was was this accident, you know. Did you guys really know? Did you look at my transcripts? Did you read what I wrote? Like, how did this happen, right? And then when they take you up there for admit weekends, which they call it, to get a feel of the campus, and I was like, is this a mistake still, you know? And then when you go there, it's like, it's very overwhelming. It's the academia, is the rigor of it. It's not, I wasn't prepared for it, right? Because they were right. We didn't receive a proper education our whole life. It's like you're missing school, especially homeless kids and foster care kids. You're missing big chunks of school. Yeah. And that through time, that affects you.
Oh, no doubt.
And what you learn. If anybody disagrees, it's like, how can you? It's like, you're out of school. You're not learning what they're teaching, right?
Yeah.
And so some of it, I don't think was discouragement. Some people were just like, so there's some things you weren't taught, right? And well, I probably told that to myself. There were some things I just wasn't taught, right? So I'm sitting in calculus at UCLA and it's looking like Greek in the summer school. I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand any of this, right?
Right.
And so I've seen a lot of kids drop out, right? I've seen a lot of kids coming from impoverished areas just quit, right? Or get kicked out, right?
Yeah.
They have a standard, especially at a school like UCLA.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of take my pride out of it and get as much tutoring as I could, right? And try to close that education gap, right? Because I acknowledged there was one. Some of this math is built off pre-existing knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that pre-existing knowledge, you can't go on with.
That's exactly right.
So let me go into the tutoring. Let me not go to the social gatherings. Let me not go to the basketball games and football games for a little time until I've caught up. And once you caught up, life gets a lot better. But you have to understand that if you need to catch up, you have to catch up. Or you how can you keep going if you don't catch up to the knowledge that you don't know, Well, so that's what I had to do.
That must have been something. I mean, for you, you're on the streets through your junior year of high school.
Uh-huh.
You finally get into a home for you and your mom. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly a year later, you're up in Westwood, like Bel Air, and
I'm looking at that Fresh Prince of Bel Air house. I'm looking at the luscious greenest grass I've ever seen. The air smelled different.
Yeah,
I'm eating Diddy Reese cookies. I'm like, what is going? I'm running into celebrities, Russell Westbrook, basketball player, different people.
Yeah,
on the campus. I'm like, well, where am I?
Oh, sorry, Russell Westbrook went to UCLA, so he was there when you were there.
I think he had just left, but I had met him my freshman year there. He had came to like the brewing party over outside. He gave me a handshake.
Oh, right on.
Didn't know me from a can of paint. I was like, oh, cool.
Nice.
But man, it was such a blessing to be there, right? Like the roads of UCLA are decorated, right? It breaks is beautiful. And so many movies shot there. I hadn't experienced anything like it. I had only been in impoverished areas my whole life. To go from just poverty to affluence in like a day or two, like a drive. It was mind blowing. Yeah, I was like, there's a better life out there. That's what I want the kids to see, like, and go on those college tours and go on those college trips, because life isn't. Because like say a lot of like affluent children, they see life already for what it is, and maybe kind of take it for granted, right? Yeah. And kids who are impoverished, they see a different side of life and don't know that there's another side to it, right? Yeah. And to show them that, like to show me that, I was like, wow, I need to strive for something like this.
So you really probably felt a little bit like a fish out of water.
Oh, a bit, like, small fish in the vast Pacific
now,
Ocean.
When you got to UCLA, were people still beating you down?
Yeah, because then it changes, right? It's the same issues, but it changes a little bit, because now it's more so like, oh, what sport do you play, right? Oh, yeah. And then there's more so affirmative action, right? Yeah. And then they want to question your place being there, right? Or like because of affirmative action, you took my friend's spot. Or
well, meanwhile, they're there because their dad must have paid $500,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you have to be tough and really kind of build your confidence and kind of put in the work, because they say you got in, that's why you belong there, and a lot of people it don't work for everybody, right? It's like, I'm struggling, right? Yeah. But you have to go through the struggle, you know, and kind of work it out, you know. It's not just things won't just work itself out. You have to work them out, you know. Yeah. And so once you do that and build confidence, like me when I was doing the tutoring and going to office hours and talking to professionals and try to really build my knowledge, and then I really felt the comfortability, like I belong here. But it's not something that people can tell you. You have to tell yourself that, and you have to believe it. It has to come from within.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, it has to come from within. I mean, you can't be looking around for, people to lift you up. I mean, you'll take the help if they offer it, but really it has to start from inside.
Right. Yeah. And one of the scriptures that I like, and I'm not like super crazy, but I listen to a lot of different things, and I feel like, or say things, and I feel like right is right. And the guy helps people those who help themselves, right? And I feel like that same thing with people as well. It's like if you see someone trying and working and doing some things for themselves, you're more inclined to help. Versus you see somebody like messing their life up, it's like
that's right.
They're gonna just throw my help down the drain anyway.
That's right. Yes.
And so, but a lot back to the homeless is like with homeless people, you don't know who is who, right? You don't know who's trying and who's not. You don't know a family from a mentally ill person when you're just looking at them, right? So a lot of people just reserve their hope, right? And so you have to really strive and kind of separate yourself from the pack to kind of get into some of those programs and kind of better your life and stuff.
So you went through UCLA, and your degree is in political science
and African American studies.
Mm-hmm. And so now you're applying your knowledge, your skills to help homeless people today. Mm-hmm. So tell me about some of the projects you're working on.
Too many, man. No, and so I run an organization called Creating First Impressions, and it is primarily designed to help homeless kids, foster care kids, all disadvantaged youth, and that's kind of 50% of our program, where we teach them communications intensive training, where it helps them build confidence in themselves, shake hands, kind of find their voice, and all that professionalism. And then we teach them work readiness training, how to tie a tie, or do's and don'ts in the workplace, and how to navigate the workplace.
That's important.
And then try to connect them to employment. And then the other half is that we have a project called Project Hope, where we just do homeless outreach, where we just go out to the community and feed the hungry and clothe those who are naked and kind of pass out blankets and toiletries, daily essentials. Because sometimes, I know, especially when I was homeless, I just want somebody to come by, here's a sandwich, dude, you know? Sometimes it's like, you're hungry, feed them. And I know it's kind of a stigma. Some people don't even want you doing that, but it's like, the human component of it, they're hungry, right? Those are more so adults. So no, we're tackling. I realize if you tackle youth homelessness, they won't grow up to be a homeless adults, and you're just wiping off generations, right?
Right.
But then you have a pool who's already there, who needs services and help, and sometimes they just need to survive to win that day. And so we're just coming out there and just kind of giving them water and just resources. You know, they have questions about where things are or how to kind of get out of the situation. And I know a lot of them that I'm starting to recognize more and more because I'm all up and down the city, right?
Yeah.
So we're just really going out there and just tackling it on a holistic level, from the youth to the adults that's already there.
So you're helping people in need, but at the same time you're helping teach them and help them build their skills so that they can rise up on their own.
And we're able to give some of them stipends for different things. You know, I try to write a lot of grants. It takes so much time, right? But we're trying to teach them how to fish while giving them fish sticks, right?
Right on.
Because if you just try to teach a hungry kid how to fish, he'll probably rob you for your fish, right? And that's just kind of the truth. Is like, this is how you fish, but he's starving right there, you know. So here's a fish stick, chill, right? Here's another one. Are you full? You good? You okay? No, this is how you go and catch fish. And then they'll grow and they'll learn. Now they're catching their own fish. And then they're not relying on me to get them a job. They're going out there with the proper skills to go be competitive and get a job themselves, right? And we're giving them resumes. We're giving them mock interviews, career panels, having people come in, financial literacy, talking to CPAs and people who done stocks or whatnot, just to give them, expose them to what they won't get exposed to around their current environment.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just taking the lessons that I learned along the way and some of the influences of my life, like mock interviews, like some of that training. And I'm like, this stuff works, right? Let's just replicate it, right? All our programs are replicable, and you don't need us to go out there but I'll try to show people how, if you go out there and engage with the homeless community, this is probably the safest way to do that, right? Kind of show people the ropes or what to do or whatnot. And we're changing lives, man. It's hard work, but it's really good to see the kids grow and then see the smiles when you give somebody some pizza. So it was like,
that's awesome.
It's cool.
Well, you know, we're here in Poway right now, and Poway, generally a pretty affluent community, but we have our own homeless issue here, particularly along Poway Road, and we'll see folks, with their stuff, and the homeless population has been growing. And we started this podcast in September, interviewing candidates for Poway Mayor, Poway City Council, and the issue of homelessness came up. And one of the candidates for mayor, her name is Emily Johnson, and she spoke up specifically about with Creating First Impressions does. You know, providing that sort of a job center where you can literally teach people how to do an interview, how to tie a tie,
Right.
okay, how to present themselves. Those are important skills.
Those are really important skills. But I try to teach people entrepreneurship as well, because what we don't want, and that's the problem with a lot of colleges, we're providing a lot of skills to a lot of people without opportunity, right? It's like most people aren't lined up to hire a former homeless person, right?
Oh yeah.
If a homeless vet cleans himself up and I was homeless for the last 20 years or whatnot, he'll probably go down on the pile, right? So that's another problem that I'm starting to see, especially with the older community, because people will give youth a chance, but especially for some of the older homeless communities, like, it's hard to find those opportunities. But I know some of them who will educate themselves and get that work readiness training, and then create their own flower business or to create their own whatnot, and that it's a lot easier that way. It's hard too, but it's a lot easier that way. I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think that some people, you could build them up to employment. Some people you can build them up to entrepreneurship. Some people build them up to military. It just depends on what's best for them.
Right.
But I do think a center like that, or any hub that's a safe space for the homeless community, is very necessary, right? Not talking about those big tents they're putting up. I'm talking about like a functional hub designed to really engage the homeless community or anybody in need, right? Because some people are just a paycheck away from being homeless, right?
Well, yeah, a lot, yeah.
And that's easier to fix too, though, right? You know, if you could just help them with their rent that month or give them some food and stop them from becoming homeless, that's an easier fix, because once you're already there, it snowballs.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Let's go back to this notion of entrepreneurship, because this is something I talk about a lot on the podcast. And you know, I own a small business, and for me, it's been so empowering. You know, I have control over my destiny to a degree.
To a degree, right? Yeah,
maybe a little more than if I was working for the man in a corporation situation, right? But I would imagine that, you know, first of all, we all know that there are roadblocks to entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
You know, like you want to start a flower business and you set up shop, and like, hey, do you have a permit for that? Yeah. So you're probably seeing a lot of that resistance too, right?
Yeah, all the laws and the taxes and everything that goes into being an entrepreneur, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, but the freedom that comes with that is a blessing. It's a blessing because you do have somewhat control of your own destiny, and you can kind of shape your schedule to how you want it. But it also gives you control. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out from it. And you don't have to wait for somebody to build you up the corporate ladder. The more you do it, and businesses implode too, don't get me wrong, you know, but it's the process until you get it going, right? And one thing always leads to the next, but it's economic freedom and ownership that you're really getting, you know. You have the means of control. If you own the means of production or whatnot, then you're set, right? But if you don't, you're just a clog in a machine, and you already come from an impoverished background, you're going to become disillusioned, and you might regress.
Yes,
you know?
That's right.
And so that's why I try to talk to kids, provide a little foresight so you don't run into some of these problems, you know.
I think it's great that you're teaching that, because it's one thing to get a job, all right? And then you talk about military as an option for some, and that's legit. But for some, the notion of being an entrepreneur is probably completely foreign to them. You know, like, what do you mean? And like, that's what other people do, or I don't understand how it's done. So the fact that you can guide them down that path, they can come out the other side more prosperous than they ever thought was imaginable.
Yeah, you just have to be realistic with them. It's like, you don't wake up and just create a business, right? You have to get your EIN, or you have to get your DBA, or you have to go through this process, and it costs money to file for these things. And a lot of people, especially impoverished, don't have it, right? And we're talking about the average kid with a sense of morality, not the drug dealers or people who get the dirty. We're talking about the kids who wanted. I had to do it the hard way. I couldn't cut corners, right? And it was hard, but I feel like nobody can take what I've earned, right? And so I'm talking to those kids who are willing to do it the hard way, it's the hard way, you know. And so when you run into the roadblocks, you're expecting that. I'm telling you up front, there's going to be roadblocks,
That's
obstacles.
right.
And my obstacles are different from your obstacles.
Yes.
But obstacle is an obstacle, right? You have to get through it on your way, you know. And so, and I'm not just telling them, I'm constantly running into obstacles, right? You know, and they're seeing me kind of navigate and troubleshoot and kind of figure things out, or figure out programming, or we'll be at this school, or we'll be at that school, or we'll be in this community, and this tax says that, or that tax says that, or the IRS is saying this, or the state is saying that. And you don't know all of this, and people in the community, no one's an entrepreneur around you, right?
Yeah, you can get steamrolled by that.
You do get steamrolled by it, right?
Yeah.
So it's very challenging, but once they see like some of the end results, and I read one of the book to some of the kids. It's an older book. It's 100 great minds, 100 great businesses and the minds behind it. Mm-hmm. Also read to them Art of the Start by like Guy Kawasaki. Read to them Stephen Covey's books or whatnot, and have them check out so they can kind of get an understanding of kind of what to expect, how to navigate. It's not just me saying like, look, these are all these different successful people,
right,
and what they say, you know, and kind of form your own theory, your own algorithm, how to do it. But everything is keeping away from criminality. You know, they're getting so caught up in all of this, they're not hanging out with their buddies on the block, you know.
That's
so
right.
We're killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
You know?
You're filling their mind with opportunity, so the negatives don't, grab them. The crabs don't pull them back down.
Absolutely.
So that's great that you present that as one of a numerous paths, to success. That's just fantastic. So tell me about your book, My Way Home. I know you brought a copy of this, and this is what you was featured on the KUSI segment that I saw you. So tell me about what led to writing the book, and tell me a little bit about what the book is about.
Oh yeah,
Why don't you hold it up and we could show our viewers here.
Yeah. Shout out Widow Publishing. And everything that they've helped me with. Took a chance on me, and I appreciate it. But so I was always interested in writing. I wrote all my life. I say writer, not author, because you need that kind of publication and kind of separate. At least that's what they told me when I was a writer. You know, I think they tried to steam me with it. Oh, my author. Oh, you've been published.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Then you're legit.
Right. Yeah. So it's a great feeling. But I always wrote, and I always know I wanted to write a story, but I never knew I wanted to write my story. I was just homeless. It was a way for me to kind of pass the time and go into a world where I can control, right? So I wrote a lot of fiction and whatnot. And so when I got a little bit older and I was in college and I was doing some talks, more and more talks, a lady came up and said, as you should write this down because you'll be able to disseminate it to a lot more people than you can going and talking.
Right.
You want to write it down while it's still fresh, where you remember everything.
That's right.
Memory slips with age, right?
Yes.
And we're all getting older.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're a young man.
I feel old, but
well, you've been through a lot. Yeah, you have. Yeah.
And so I took her word for it. And I think I was about my junior year in college, and I really sat down behind my laptop and tried to. I was working on 2 fiction stories. I was like, let me switch lanes real quick and kind of write about myself and kind of tell some. In my book, I kind of highlight through my story the stories of other people going through what they're going through. Cause I say that, please understand my story is just one of millions, and no shade to myself, but again, there's millions of homeless people out there. And I try to show you the different types, from the veterans to the domestic violence victims to the unaccompanied youth, to just so many components of what's going on. And people only see that vagabond cussing and swearing on the street, when that's like 5% of the homeless population, right?
That makes sense.
And so I wrote it it was probably about 30,000 words. This is about 80-something thousand words, right? So you kind of see the difference. And so it started about 30,000 words. I'm like, I'm done. It's good. I'm just sending it off, get a publisher, and start shaping it. I was letting people read it and whatnot. And, you got to take your pride out of it, right? You got to take your pride, throw it out. Because people who have never met you before are critiquing your work, and so there's no sense. They're not censoring anything, right?
Right.
And so and it's so many crazy things that happen right along this process, because it took me from my junior year till about 2017, is when I got a deal. So about 2013 to 2017, I was taking me that long figuring out kind of the process of writing query letters, literary agents, publishers, the mechanics and logistics of formatting a book, right, and telling a story.
Yeah.
And then I had one of my professors read it, and she said, "You're not supposed to have contractions in it, right?" And so I went and took all my contractions out. So for when I did get my publisher, why aren't there any contractions in here? And I was banging my head against the desk. And then when you get your publishing deal, it takes about a year because you're going through rounds of edits, right?
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, don't really focus on getting too much edited before you get a publisher, because they're going to re-edit it anyway, right? You want to make it look nice and clean. And so, and then, I went through 16 rounds of edits, right?
16?
I don't think I think that's small. I think especially like some of the bigger, more established authors have to go through so much more, and it's so hard, man. It's so hard. It's the second things second hardest thing I had to do. First, I say beating homelessness. Second was writing about it, and then in writing this book, it was hard for me. Hard for my mom, hard for my sister, calling each other, talking about it, kind of saying, what do you remember, how the events went or whatnot. And it was tough reliving it, right? It's tough sharing it, right?
Yeah.
But I always wish there was a blueprint on how to survive homelessness when I was a kid, right? Where to go, how to get food, how to navigate these situations.
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
Right.
And so I decided to write one. So if anybody found themselves in a situation coming in from middle class or starting there, or however you ended up there, this is kind of how you could survive that. These are kind of some of the things that I did. These are some of my experiences and experiences of people that I've met, and kind of how we maneuvered it around it and got out and stayed out. And it's replicable, right? It's not like, no say to myself again, but it's not like I, moved the sun out the sky, right? Mm-hmm. I think I worked hard and tried to get those rewards. And I'm like, anybody, if you work hard and if you troubleshoot and persevere through these obstacles and challenges, you'll come out ahead, And of course, it'll be relative to you and your situation. But if you're homeless or in like a foster care kid in those situations, this is kind of how you maneuver that when the world's against you. When you got, because I remember there was a time it was in juvenile hall. I got kicked out of school. I got jumped and beat up, and I was like, my face was cracked. I was bleeding everywhere. And I was sitting at the park, and I was crying.
Well, yeah.
I was like, there's no way I can win this. They're gonna kill me, and it's one of my lowest points, and to take, that's in the book too, and to take a kid from that. And I've seen little kids sleeping in ditches, I'm like 3 and 4, but their mom snugged up in ditches. I've seen so much stuff at an early age, sleeping on the floor next to like old prostitutes or old hustlers, and at the end result of all those drugs and crazy bad decisions. I got to see the end result early. You end up where I started at. If you just messed up in life, blew all your opportunity, made all the bad decisions you could, you'd end up where I started at, homeless and like a shelter on the floor somewhere or on the street, right? And so I knew that at an early age. And so those kids who got that card that was dealt, first thing I tell them, don't cry about it. In the beginning when you're 6, 7, 8, you're probably gonna cry about it. Right? But when you get a little bit older and a little bit more control, don't cry about it. What are you gonna do about it? Right? You're gonna blame your parents, you're gonna blame circumstance, or you're gonna take action. And that's kind of what I try to highlight in the story, and kind of what it was like to grow up, especially in San Diego, because like you were saying, it's like San Diego is a destination for homeless people, right?
Well, yeah.
The weather's beautiful.
Yeah.
And although other cities might have better infrastructure to deal with it, but San Diego is just, you can literally sleep on the streets without getting snowed on, right?
Well, yeah.
And some people are flocking here, and how do you survive that, and all of that. So I try to highlight the good, the ups and the downs, and kind of, especially for the youth, especially for the youth. I try to help everybody, but for the youth, I really think it it wasn't fair, you know. And
Well,
so
yeah. Well,
let's
it's not.
make it. I'm trying to get them a sense of understanding.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes
And like you said, a blueprint on how to work your way out of it.
yeah.
And share some success stories and things that you witnessed along the way.
Right.
And that's outstanding. So, and yeah, you're a published author. You know, you have credibility now, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because I did the San Diego Liberty Stations Author Festival, or what was it called, not too long ago, and another author that was up there, she was like, how she had like amazing woman, she got her literary agent or whatnot. Me and my literary agent, we kind of split ways at the time because we kind of had, I guess, a difference of perspective of what we wanted to do, and so I had to act as my own literary agent and kind of talk to publishers as a literary agent myself, and they advise you against that. It's impossible. You'll never get a deal that way, or you never get a publication that way without a literary agent. And that's what she was saying up there, and I was laughing. I like, story of my life, right? You know, I had to go the extra hard way.
Yeah, right.
Do it myself, but I feel like I always had to do it the hard way, the hardest way.
Yeah.
But it's cool to share my experience with the younger generations, so they might not have it as hard, you know.
Well, I mean, they're having it hard. Okay, I mean, if you're homeless, it's hard. But there are a lot of easy ways you could, like you said, you could have cut corners,
Right. Yeah.
You know, but you never did. And the fact that you have been successful, you serve as an example to other people that not only can it be done, but you can show them the way.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's just fantastic. If you don't mind, if we could switch gears a little, I'd like to talk about just the homelessness, like from a current affairs, current news perspective. So, you know, homelessness is on the rise, like in California. You know, we're seeing tent cities. We're seeing, like you say, people are coming to San Diego because there's such beautiful weather. What's your perspective on why you think homelessness is on the rise? And what do you think are some things that our community leaders can do to help relieve the problem?
So can I get some tissue? Is that
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah, we'll get you some.
allergies be kind of crazy.
Sorry about it. Well, the pollen count is insane right now.
Yeah, I normally take Zyrtec right before I go anywhere, but it was kind of far. I wanted to hop on the road and get there.
No worries. We were just driving through Lake Elsinore.
Oh, yeah.
The bloom is just insane.
Yeah.
And then people are like going up into these canyons. You could see them. We were driving on the freeway. Yeah. It's unbelievable right there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I was actually up there not too long ago. Actually, one of my friends was up there, lives up there. But it's great. With me, that's a problem with being in nature or being around. Cause I like the sights and aesthetically, but I don't know if it likes me back.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No, not at all. So we were saying, why do you think homelessness is on the rise, and what do you think our community leaders can do to help solve the problem?
That's an interesting question. The first half, I'll address it first because people ask me, "Is it on the rise?" And I'm like, that's interesting. Cause they say, "Have I seen as many homeless people now that I saw back then?" And it's like, kind of. It's like, I'm not sure if it's on the rise or a bigger light's being put on it, right?
Okay.
Because it's like, to me, there was always a lot of homeless people. I saw them everywhere I went, hordes, hundreds of people, right? And it's not like everybody else is seeing it now, especially with the hepatitis outbreak and whatnot. But it's hard for me to definitively, concretely say it's on the rise because I'm like, to me, it was always a lot. And a lot of people just didn't see it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, it's like tunnel vision, it's like, see no evil, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to say. But I think now a bigger light, we'll say both. We'll say it's increasing with there's a brighter light on it as well, and I think one light, it's hard, rents getting higher, especially in San Diego.
Rent is really expensive.
And yes, they're raising the minimum wage or whatnot, but they're also raising everything else too, right? It's inflation. So like, you get paid more to pay the rent that's getting raised, right? So it's like, it kind of like averages out, right?
Yeah.
And so you cannot live. You cannot it's hard, especially when a lot of middle class people. It hurts the worst when they go homeless because you know what it's like when you're not homeless. You know what average life is like.
Right.
When you lose that job or your mom passes away or whatever strikes you and you're just there. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so we are seeing an increase of that, of people just losing their jobs or tragedy strike. And they're just dumbfounded and homeless, right? And those people have it the worst, I'd say. Because me, I don't know what it was like to not, right, for a while.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't missing anything. And for those people, it's people who were okay at first or coming to homeless, like, this is not right? Who still have the knowledge and know how to talk to like city council members about it.
Yeah.
Like this is not cool. And I think that's putting light on it too. And then when because those places, man, are unsanitary, right? And so you're losing jobs. That's why I say entrepreneurship is like we're preparing them for what, like for what jobs, right? And so it's like when those jobs you're losing or getting lost to technology or whatnot, and people are losing their homes, and or when that great housing crisis happened, and all of a sudden all these people who were steady and normal middle class just tossed into the streets.
Right.
It's the economy of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it sucks, dude. And so I think that kind of helps to the influx. Is there's not enough employment, there's not enough money going around, there's not enough resources, right? And then to prevent you from becoming homeless, because if you can stop that, if you can bail out, they could have bailed out some of those mortgages like they did the auto industry, or help those people out, or whatever the case may be, the homeless problem wouldn't have gotten that part of it wouldn't have gotten as bad. Because to see regular citizens just drop because of like bad decisions of their bosses,
right,
or like that's not fair either.
Right. Well, it's like almost any problem in life. If you can stop it before it happens.
Proactivity,
yeah. But once you're deep in the hole, it's hard to climb out.
Right. And then it becomes chronic. And then if you never was homeless before and it was all foreign to you, you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't know how to navigate and to get out of it. Sorry.
So what's the next big thing that you're working on right now?
So we're like me personally.
Just what personally, professionally, what's in your future?
Well, I'm writing another book. But it's a fictional book. I'm really it's like Greek mythology-ish.
Okay.
And so I'm half geek, right? Like half athlete, half geek, right?
Oh, good. Yeah, right on.
And so I read a lot. I've read a lot. I continue to read a lot. And so I love the process of writing. So I'm working on one of those. Hopefully I could get like a Scholastic or something. And then we're trying to work on a social enterprise, the nonprofit, so we can like generate some income and maybe start hiring kids ourselves or whatnot, and kind of help them along that path and whatnot. And so I'm getting ready to launch that. We just launched the Project Hope maybe a month or two ago, the homeless outreach, which was our next big project, and that's doing great. And we encourage anyone who wants to go out in the community, go out there, check out our website, creatingfrestimpressions.org. We have some tips on kind of like how to do it when you go out there. If you want to help us. And then, man, we're just we're working on what we call pro teams, which is internship based. We have some grants for it where kids could go and address problems in their community and document the process into a nice video clip and share it with their peers or whatnot, kind of like solution driven, and maybe share it at city council meetings or whatnot.
Right.
We're trying to have impact or change coming directly from the youth that's affected by it the most. And so that's kind of big on our radar, just kind of launch all those and get them going. And
do you sleep at night, man? I mean, you have so much energy.
I don't.
I mean, and you've got so much going on, and just the energy to get you to where you've gotten. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, where's the time come from? I don't know. I never knew where the time came from, right? Like, how am I on the streets and doing my homework and, running from gangs chasing me? It's like, where? But you have to force the time, right? You have to force it. There's not enough hours in the day,
right?
So you have to make it enough, and sacrifices are made, right? I mean, you can't always have as much fun that you want to, but I feel like I can have and enjoy the fruits of labor later on in life.
But you're choosing what's in your best interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe that, this is the right pathway for me, right?
Yeah.
And the kids, they're watching me, and you could tell them one thing, but they're going to do what they see you do, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not a hypocrite if I'm telling them entrepreneurship, if I'm telling them this and I'm telling them that. If they don't see me doing it, they're going to say he doesn't believe in it.
Right,
He's
of course.
not drinking what he's selling, right?
Right.
And by doing it this way, they believe in themselves, even if that's weird to say, because it's like to see me do something, there's no difference from me and them, right? I'm just like an older version of them. We sit in the same seats, went to the same shelters, we ate the same foods. So when they see me go through it, or they see me do things, they just looking at themselves, an older version of themselves do it. And so it's empowering for them. And it's empowering for me to look into the future, into the past, by looking at these kids and answering some of the questions that they have, that I had, that no one answered for me. Like, what do you do? How do you navigate? This is how you do it. That's how you navigate it.
Yeah.
And they're not bumping their heads as much, and it's very fulfilling to see.
So when you were young, you said there was no hero coming in to save you,
Yeah.
but now you are the hero for a lot of people.
I want to say hero, because I'm not saving them. I'm I would say like a mentor, that like sensei, because I'm giving them tools to save themselves, because I'm not going to always be around them.
But to them, you're a hero.
Maybe.
You're modest. But seriously, you're showing them a pathway to better life.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just amazing. And that's so awesome.
I just wanted, you always say, be the change that you wish you saw, right? And I really internalized that, because I saw an interview my dad did from prison, and kind of talking about some of the things. He didn't know how bad, like, I in particularly had it been a minority male homeless in like San Diego, a place generally of affluence, right?
Yeah.
And everything it had to deal with, and those kids, like, they have to play a game of double consciousness and cross the veil and code switch, where like some people are just on the mainstream America side, some people are just on urban side, right? And then kids who want to, impoverished kids who want better, have to navigate both.
Yeah, they
have
do.
to be cool on both sides,
That's
intelligent on both sides.
That's right.
And these are contrasting forces, right? And so it's like, how do you navigate that, right? And I can tell you how to navigate it now, because I had to navigate it, right? But going through it, I didn't know how.
No way.
And so now that I know how, like you said, I don't want any kid to go through some things keep you up at night. Your anxiety goes crazy, because in the moment it's so terrifying. Like looking at all the things you have to go through, it's like, and that's why a lot of kids don't. They're like, how can I do all of that? And I tell them, well, step by step, like one day at a time. And as long as you're working towards something every day, one step towards your goal every day, that's good enough, right? You don't have to save the world tomorrow, right? But you help somebody out tomorrow, you're one step towards that goal. That's why I tell the kids, long-term and short-term goal setting, right? And kind of manage your expectations and know that it's all going to be challenging. Now, I kind of oversell the challenging part, so when it's not as something that's not as hard, I'm like, because you were prepared for it.
You are. Yeah. Well, they say, just be better than you were yesterday,
right? And
just slowly ratchet up,
right? And win the day, win the day, get a win each day. It'll rack up,
That's terrific.
And I see people, like regular citizens, wanting to help the community, and they get a little frustrated, cause like, where do I begin? I just can't dive in, or I want to help everybody or whatnot. And I say, start in your own backyard. Like you, especially say people in power. You see. We all have eyes, right? It's like when I was home, like, I see you looking at me, right? I see people walking around, like, I see that, So the mirror works both ways. I see you and you see me. And if you can help, if you're in a position to help, I believe that it is our moral responsibility as humans to help our fellow human that's suffering. Why? Because a lot of people were like, thank God that's not us, right? And when it touches, and when you want to pick yourself up about it, you say, well, at least we're not like these people, right? And so I feel like that's not the mentality that we need. if you see a fellow neighbor in need, help within your capacity. You get what I'm saying? Whatever that may be. You might not have to be Mother Teresa or Father Joe, but you can, set up a table and like, hey, here's some sandwiches or gift cards or clothes. Have a conversation. How did you end up here? I'd say definitely pick and choose though. Usually I have somebody, cussing on the corner with knives waving around their hand. Probably not him, but you see a mother with kids. Like I did a homeless spoken word video called "The Homelessness" on YouTube, and it's like I went to community kind of show people. You see like there's two people with dogs here, right? You know what I'm saying? You left animals, right? Give them some dog food or whatever you can that touches you, because homeless is not what people think. The more people were homeless that didn't even know, right? Or it's the umbrella of homelessness is so complex that until you get a first-hand account of it, you're only going to know what they've told you about it, right?
Right.
Now, I encourage people to go and make your own opinion, form your own opinion.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense to start in your own backyard, because when you can address what's happening in your community,
right,
you're not only helping those individuals,
right,
but you're helping your community at large, which ultimately helps you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You know, so because it makes your community better. Everyone's thriving and we're flourishing as a group.
Yeah.
So I think that's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole community uplifts, right? And I also say kind of like pick and choose which component of homelessness that person will want to tackle, right? One group, veteran homelessness. One group, women who are victims of domestic violence or the mentally ill or youth homelessness. A lot of people I'm going to hit every homeless person. There's so many different things. Focus, and another group will focus on this and share resources or whatnot, because it's not like a group of wild animals that you have to hoard everywhere, but that's how it seems. That's how it looks, right? These are people like me and you who are just in a bad situation, right? And they don't want to be there. I promise you, the majority of the homeless people that you see do not want to be on the street starving and cold. Like, who would choose that, right? And so talk to people. Resources go so far. This is where you can get this. This is where you can get food, I wouldn't necessarily go out there and just hand people like wads of cash, right? Because decision making comes into play, right?
Yeah, you got to teach them to fish.
Right, you got to teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
But, talk to them, hey, I see you at this McDonald's every day, do you want to learn about jobs? Or maybe I have a job doing custodial work for you, You do got to start where you're at, and be true about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people won't pass up on those opportunities, but we're being ignored and we're pushing them away and further away. And like the homeless people in San Diego, downtown San Diego, are getting pushed from street to street to street to street, and they're arrested and harassed.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, they just want a safe place to go. And in Poway or wherever, we could just create a safe place, a safe space for, it might not have to be to sleep at night or whatnot, but to come and wash up and just not, it sucks not taking a shower, that's why they have so many mobile showers and clinics now, because people don't want to be dirty, but where can they wash up at? I had to wash up in the library sometimes.
Yeah.
The library bathrooms stink because they're washing up in library bathrooms. They're spending their time in library bathrooms. Let's give them somewhere to go. Let's give them food, daily essentials. That's what we're trying to do, but we can't do it by ourselves, right? On the city level,
it's there's a lot of aspects, a lot of angles to it.
Yeah,
a lot of, like you say, there's different categories. There's different tiers of help, but it also requires the individual, the homeless person, to want to lift themselves up at the same time, and then cooperatively, we can raise everyone up.
Yeah, if someone says I'm cool right here on the streets, I don't need your resources, I don't want your help, don't force them. Like, okay, just move to the next person. Because we don't know what they're going through, right?
Yeah.
But you have to want it for yourself. That's why I say with the kids, it's going to some kids it clicks right away. Some kids it clicks later down the line. It's always going to click eventually at different times. And me, when a kid wants it, then I'll go ahead and help. But until you want it for yourself, for whatever makes that click in you, I'm just watching and waiting, because I can't light that fire for you, right? The best I could do is give you a hope and something to believe in.
Right.
And hopefully that opportunity or that hope will have you light it for yourself, but it has to come from within.
That's right.
That individual. With homeless people, foster care, whatever the situation is. opportunity normally lights that flame for these kids, right? If they see an opportunity, a feasible opportunity that can help better their life, normally that sparks interest, right? But without that, like, yeah, you could tell, say a kid wants to rap and you tell them, well, I can get you this job as a dishwasher or something like that. It's hard to do that. Me, I could say, I can get you this job as a dishwasher and I can show you where a studio is, you know? Like, oh, well, okay. Yeah, I can do that. You get what I'm saying? So now they have something that's motivating them to pursue their dreams. And also that dishwasher job is giving them money and to help them with their lives and also help them pursue their dreams. And they might not be a rapper or actor or not as time progresses, but now that dishwasher job led to a cooking job, which led, now they're a culinary person. Now they're in you get what I'm saying? So, and that's what we're trying to do.
That is awesome. So you're just, like you say, you're kind of helping them see the light.
Right, yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
you're giving them the pathways, and there's many paths to success.
Right.
But you're showing them that every one of those is achievable.
And
they look to you as an example, and a lot of your other cohorts that are in the community helping out. So I think it's fantastic.
It's cool to see.
Michael Gaulden, thank you very much for joining me here on the John Riley Project.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. This is fun. This is fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. So I wish you well. Keep us posted on your activities. And then if there's anything else going on here in Poway with homelessness, can we reach out to you maybe for some advice? Maybe you can help us out?
You can reach out to me directly through the creatingfirstimpressions.org website. I also have my own personal author website called michaelgaulden.com. That's a direct access to me, so only use it when you want to contact me.
Well, I'll put all those links in the show notes. So they'll be on the iTunes show notes and in the YouTube and everything else, so people can find you and reach out.
And the biggest thing you can do for me is help your community. The biggest thing I'd ask anyone is just, do your share, however you feel. If that means volunteering your time at the kitchen or volunteering your time in the mentorship program, because I'm big on mentorships. My first time introducing myself to a CEO talk to me revolutionized my conceptual thinking, right? And so mentor kids and do your part. That's the biggest thing anybody could do for me, and you can also come out and volunteer with Creating First Impressions as well.
Right on.
But help out.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it.
All right.